part of Project 571, genetically engineered vampire created to destroy evil.
What do you want?
We need your help to kill a vampire.
Malleus Maleficario. It was written by a witch. The first witch. Titania.
That was a little snippet from The Witch's Hammer, the first film I ever solo directed, and it's just been remastered and re-released on Amazon. So if you like witches and vampires, then please do check it out. Anyway, let's get on with this week's episode. Can you make a feature film for $10,000? Well, I spoke to father-son duo Sean and Taylor King, who do that on a regular basis. They're currently working on their 20th feature film. They've also worked on TV series. These all go out and get distributed through Amazon and Film Hub. And I talked to them about how they keep those movies going. They started doing this in 2015, so they've been going about 10 years. They've got a process set up where they crank these movies out, they get them up on streaming, and then they move on to the next one. So if you're interested in maybe making your first feature film or finding out how they do this incredible process, or you just want to listen to father-son talk about making films together and what that dynamic's like, then this is a great episode. Enjoy. Father-son team that makes indie films. Just so people have got a bit of background, give me a bit of background on you guys. I'll start with you, Sean. So tell me a bit about you. Where are you and what are you up to?
Yeah, so I went to the London Film School when I was 18 and I was LA born and raised and came back and just knew I wanted to make indie films. And it was around the time that Kevin Smith and Spike Lee and everyone was doing 16 millimeter films. So I made my first film and we ended up selling it to HBO, and that was sort of the start of my career. And it's the only thing I've ever done in my life. And then when Taylor was 18 and wanted to do the same thing, he has his own story about how he got started in this business.
Yeah, I mean, right out of high school, I knew that was what I wanted to do. And, my mom really wanted me to go to college. If he's going to go to film school, he can learn that in college and stuff. And coincidentally, and this was before I had graduated, my mom had tickets to go and see, it was just called A Night with Ron Howard. And he was speaking at sort of our local amphitheater. And so Sean and I went, and one of the first questions during the Q&A was someone in the audience, similar thing. My son wants to be a filmmaker, and I know you went to USC film school. What are the pros and cons? And he said, yeah, USC was great, but if your kid wants to be a filmmaker, buy him a camera and a laptop and have him have him start making films. That's the best way that he's going to learn. And then after that, my mom was like, well, if Ron Howard says so, then that's it's good enough for me.
Yeah, Ron Howard got you out of it. That's good. Yeah. That's cool. So there's two sides to this story I'm interested in, and obviously you're unique, you guys, because first father-son team I've spoken to. So there's that side to it. The other side is the sheer amount of stuff you seem to make, and this is the bit I need kind of some more information on. So how many indie films have you guys made so far?
So currently the 19th just came out on Amazon.
19th.
They have they have the 20th. The 21st is shot and in post. And then Taylor, we're doing a 100-day shoot, which is a series now. It's 8 40-minute episodes, and that's a Taylor project. And so that'll come out in October.
Right. Wowzers. And how long ago did you start doing this? So how we're on project 20. Are we talking 20 years, or how often are these coming out?
So we started in 2015 officially. Our first project, which was a show called Private Sales, came out in 2016. Yeah. So we are now on our 10 year as a micro studio production company.
Wow.
And Private Sales was Taylor's film school. So the whole thought was take a little film school money. We'll do 6 half hours of this series. My thought was if he was to write and direct, and I also thought he should be in it because there's a different way you talk to actors. If you are an actor, you know how to talk to them. And so he did all that. And 9 months later, the show was did really well, and his career took like 10 minutes to to go from 0 to 100. So
Amazing. So again, that gives me even more questions, because I read somewhere online that it's that you set a budget level. Is that right for your feature films?
yeah,
So what we
but
at?
so we try to not spend cash more than about $10,000. And this isn't because this is, I guess there's no other reason besides commerce and just the reality of what the streaming channels are paying now. And so and we're sort of a micro studio. So we have to assume if two films don't do well, that hopefully that third film, just like a studio, will pay for the other two. And we found that that works, that we can, one in every three will break the threshold enough to cover the rest, and we can continue to make films.
Right. So $10,000 budget on each of these films, and I've looked through. They all seem to be genre movies, so horrors, science fiction, that kind of stuff. Which of those so far has been the most financially successful, and what sort of genre and story did that fit into?
Taylor, do you know? I probably know more than the finance side, but
I think it's either one or two films. It's either a film we did called Devil's Island or a romantic comedy we did called The Wedding Trip.
Right. Oh, you've done a romantic comedy as well. Right. Okay.
Yeah,
we've done a pair of those.
yeah,
You've done a lot.
yeah.
The actual Vampire Next Door, I think, is probably the quickest to almost recouping its money. But here's what we're finding out. It has more to do with title and poster than it does even and genre. Those three things will contribute more to whether the film's going to do well than what the content of that 90 minutes is. Yeah. Which is the new reality. If they don't click, they won't watch.
Yeah. That's nuts, isn't it? Because I remember, say, I don't know, 15 years ago, Cannes Film Festival, go to the market. It's all posters, it's all artwork, and it's all titles. Yeah. And we're sort of back in that zone, aren't we? Where it's just what you see on a streaming platform and the thing that makes you click on it. And that's another thing I've noticed from your projects. It's all very clear what they are. It's got a title. It's got a very clear, crisp image. Do you guys do your own artwork, or is that a distributor?
That's all Taylor.
Oh wow! Okay, cool. And where's that skill come from?
So my background is just sort of like my whole life has been art, specifically illustrative art. I'm not pronouncing the right word, but painting, drawing my whole life, and one of my idols is Drew Struzan, the poster artist.
So
who did the Star Wars posters, Goonies, anything that movies from that era that you love, he probably did the poster for. So I'm very invested in sort of the whole marketing side of things, and it changes. It's weird letting go of what you like versus what actually works, because the whole streaming side of things is completely thrown. You're not walking past a billboard anymore, or past the marquee where all the posters are. Now it's much bigger. It's not even a video store. It's you're looking at, in reality, if you're sitting in front of your TV, you're looking at little 1-inch images of all these different posters, and so you got to stand out. And so really it's been like a trial and error process.
And we have a mock-up that we'll take our little 1 inch by 1/2 inch and put it into a Netflix or an Amazon frame, and just look at it and see, does it pop at all? Does it, if you're just scanning, is there anything there that's going to make you click on it?
Yeah, that's a good move. And I always tell students, go to the Tubi homepage, for example, or go to the genre of the film that you're making, and just have a look at it, soak it in. You'll instantly notice. You go to the horror page, everything's got an element of red, and posters are so much crisper and cleaner and kind of almost like one image, aren't they? It's kind of like a thing and a massive title. So having designed all those posters, what are your kind of simple tips, do you think, for people if they're trying to do that themselves?
Faces have been a huge thing as of recently, and I don't want to say that because it's going to become oversaturated as well, and there's going to be that next thing. But I think as humans, we sort of connect immediately with the face. So faces specifically close up, the mountain of people doesn't really work anymore. Sort of, you've got your entire cast in some sort of form or image that sort of ties in, that doesn't really work. Um, or obviously a thing, like ones that come to mind immediately are like the Donnie Darko poster, which it has that really scary imagery. Now that's a double one because it is, if you look at it closely, it is a mountain of people image, but it makes sort of that bunny mask. That's a horror image in the movie that makes you click on it. Similar to we have with the Vampire Next Door, it is obviously want to get the point across vampires, so it is like a very close image of a woman's face who is a vampire. We see her teeth and everything. We just changed the poster artwork for a film we did called Super Hot, which has to do with vampires as well. That one's more of a 80s John Hughes kind of comedy that deals with vampires, but it had the mountain of people. And then we changed it to our main character sitting inside the mouth of a vampire is doing much better now.
Yeah. Within like 3 weeks, the analytics are just, and it's a 3-year-old film, and it's now starting to rise again just because of the poster change.
Yeah.
And I'll just, if I can add on one more thing, the other thing we do now is title search. So we'll pull up Amazon or Tubi and we'll start typing in the title. And how many words does it take us to get to where that genre pops up? So we have a film coming out called The House on Devil's Hill. We're probably going to have to change it because the house doesn't get us to where we need to be. We're going to have to probably title it Devil's Dungeon, Devil's Basement, something that first word clicks and gets you in the right area right away.
Yeah. Good tip. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because the combination of the title and the artwork, and like the ones you've described there, usually it's the kind of juxtaposition of two things. And it's almost like we're talking about YouTube videos. It's having a hook, isn't it, in that thumbnail?
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's kind of weird. We're in that zone now.
Yeah. If I can just give one more tip that we're now doing is, YouTube will allow you to put up 3 thumbnails and find the one that works best. We're now doing that with our poster artwork. So on the trailer, we'll put up the 3 different ones, let it run before the film comes out and see which one, at least the YouTube audience, gravitated towards. And that'll then help influence what the poster looks like for streaming.
Brilliant. Yeah. Done that with videos before. Never done it with a film poster. Is it, when you do that, is it, 30%, 29%, 25%, or is it a very clear winner, this one?
I think we've only done it twice now, and it depends on how different we go with it. Like for the one for Alien Weekend, they were main actress, full body, main actress here, and then our furry creature. And so it didn't give us, it almost came out 33%. That one didn't help us. We just had to take a guess on it. Yeah. But from here on out, we're doing it, and you almost have to go more extreme to see what they'll be different. Because if they're too close, like I said, that last one was sort of a fail in getting the end result we wanted.
Yeah. And before I move on away from artwork, I love 80s posters, 80s video, VHS artwork. Have you both got a favorite poster or VHS cover, DVD cover that you love?
Of films. So I grew up in the 80s, and the Breakfast Club image to me just sticks in my head. But I was 19 when the Breakfast Club came out, so it resonated with me. Taylor? I'm Back to the Future.
Yeah, Back to the Future is probably one of the most iconic in my head of just that. I have that poster. It's somewhere in my house. But that and probably God, it's a really tough one. That again, it's another Drew Struzan one. But The Thing. I think The Thing is one of those, and a testament to sort of how these things come about. But The Thing poster was literally done in like an afternoon. It was a rush job, and it just resonates with. It's got that single focused image from it's the thing. It's mysterious. It sort of provokes you. It draws you in. It's one of those posters that I remember the first time I saw it at the video store.
Yeah, and it's funny because that poster actually sort of fits in with those rules that apply now, doesn't it? Because it's a singular image, big title, bit of intrigue, gets you into it. So let's move back to the filmmaking. So what do you shoot on? What are you shooting on at the moment?
So we've had sort of an evolution. The first two films were shot on a Canon 5D Mark II, and that's because we owned one, and we had a bunch of expensive lenses, and so it was easy. But then we also realized that 4K had become this buzzword, and we knew we needed to get there. And so we bought an Ursa 4.6K from Blackmagic in 2017, did about 6 films with that. And then the rig became huge, and it just became, we found that our films, we weren't moving the camera very much because the rig was so big, and we're a 2-man film crew. And so we then got the Blackmagic 6K when it came out, and that cured a lot of those problems. But not there was a better form factor to be had. And then last year we got the Pixis, which has sort of become the perfect. It's back to being full frame like the Canon 5D Mark II. It's a box camera, and we've shot about 60 days with it so far, and it's been great. Actually, Taylor can speak to the functionality because he actually operates. So.
Yeah, I mean, and especially when we had the Ursa 4.6K, it was a behemoth. I mean, and technology has become, everything's gotten lighter and smaller, and certain technologies have combined to make one unit of like our monitor and our transmitter are the same thing now. I'm also 6'3", so I'm like, and when we do like handheld things, I'm oftentimes, in fact, there's been a couple shots in some of our films where it looks ridiculous, like we're looking down on some of the actors as they're walking, these 5-foot plus actors. It's we, with our 6K pocket cinema camera, we ended up having to flip it upside down on our rig, and that made things a little bit more difficult. But with the box camera form factor, I can still do that with keeping everything upright and just mounting positions, everything. In fact, I have it. It's just sitting over here in the corner.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
It never leaves. There's been a few, like, the other night we had the blood moon and I had to, run out and grab a shot of it. But you just never know. But yeah, the Blackmagic has been our go-to. And with DaVinci Resolve and everything, it's just our post workflow, including our on-set workflow, is just, it's pretty seamless. So
yeah. That reminds me of the first solo feature film I shot was on 35mm on Panavision cameras, and it would take 4 of us to lift it. And now it just blows my mind that you can. So I'd love something small that you can be mobile with and get about with. So you've done all these movies. For someone who's thinking about doing their first feature film, what would be your tips?
Oh man, it's we're writing a book about this because there's so many. Don't do your passion project first, because your first film is not going to be no matter where you're coming in at, what skill level, once you make your first one, there's going to be little disasters that happen all along the way. And you're not going to be able to realize that film you wanted to make. So make it your third. Do your first on if you don't have enough to do 3, do your first 2 on an iPhone. And just get them out of the way. Work with actors. You may find that you find that one actor that is going to make your third film, the one that you really want to do great, and the same time one that may have caused problems for your production, they don't end up in your first film or in your third film, I guess the passion project. And so every single first-time filmmaker I've talked to, they all share the same problems. Even though you can predict them, you can't. So make your passion project your third film and do the first 2 as cheap as you can. Get them out there. Make your distribution mistakes up front, find out how distribution works. And then when you finally get to your passion project, you're going to be so much happier with the final result. Taylor?
Yeah, no, I mean, Sean and I compare a lot of it to sports. We use a lot of sports analogy a lot of the time, but like we always say, how many at bats can you get? You know, how many times can you get on the court to practice and stuff? And it's literally like buying a pair of sneakers and being like, all right, put me in, coach. When you've never touched a basketball in your life, it's it it can be scary and very difficult. Um, and everything you do is a learning process. And Sean and I always say, especially for first-time filmmakers, if you are one of those people who somehow manages to get funding from family friends for, like, say you raise $50 to $100,000. First of all, good for you. Wow. But second of all, split that up into making as many films as you can possibly make, because you're just going to get better. I look back on a lot of the stuff that we've done, stuff that was successful, but I look back at it and I'm like, wow, if only I knew what I know now. And yeah, that's a huge, and you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So learning on the job is just the way of the game when it comes to filmmaking. So
We shot a 3.5-hour series in Scotland. And from a previous show, we realized it rains a lot in Scotland. And so we rewrote well, we didn't write that one. We actually had him rewrite it, but every other scene is in the rain, or 1/3 of it needs to be in the rain, so that, because it was going to rain, and it did, and it literally timed out. In the morning it'd be raining, we would shoot. In the afternoon it would stop, and we would shoot. And we managed to finish on time. But had we not, continuity wouldn't have worked. And again, it was just one of those things. We didn't know it until we had experienced being rained out or having continuity issues because of weather.
Yeah, that's a smart move. Yeah, it rains a lot over here. The interesting one I want to pick up there is because a lot of, I don't know what how your college university system works, but what usually happens here is if someone does a degree, they do like an end of year, final year project, so they make a movie. And what a lot of students end up doing is they crowdfund it. So they go to all their relatives, family, get this amount of money, and it's quite a decent. It's sometimes it can be 10K, and make a short film with it. And I'm always like, oh God, don't spend 10K on a short film for your project. Don't need to spend that money. Save that one punt you get at going to family for money. Save it for a feature film, because the short's not going to do anything apart from maybe you'll show it in a few festivals. You'll learn, but yeah, save the money for a feature that you can actually do something with. So you mentioned maybe you had an actor didn't get on with. Maybe there's always disagreements on set. Father son. How does that dynamic work? How do you handle disagreements, and how do you handle conflict in general on a film set?
Two separate things. So I think Taylor and myself, Taylor can speak to that, and then actors are a different breed because we're not related.
Yeah, I mean, Sean and I really we don't argue. We disagree about a lot of things, and I think some of that just comes from difference in age and life experience. So I mean, especially in the beginning, there was a lot of opinions that I had that or exactly what sort of a 19-year-old would have about the way things should be, and then the way that things are. And but Sean and I just don't argue. I mean, we talk through things so much, and oftentimes we're often trying to work through the exact same issues together, that the right decision usually comes very quick. Also, Sean and I are able to communicate very non-verbally, to the point where sometimes it's scary for actors, because all of a sudden Sean and I will look at each other when a problem arises, and then all of a sudden there's just a conclusion that we both mentally come to, and like address to the actors, and the actors sort of look at us like, okay, that was fast, let's but being just the two of us, our film crews are literally just Sean and myself for the most part, and our efficiency and stuff comes from us being able to work really well together. And I know that there's a lot of, and we're reminded a lot through both actors and other people we've worked with who don't have that kind of relationship with their parents. It's just how special the relationship that him and I have, where we are able to communicate so clearly, and work so efficiently together. We both feel very lucky about it. It, it we've come to realize over the past 10 years that, and Sean can speak to this, that when it comes to actors, it's just a completely different story. I mean, there's always something. But Son, I don't know if you want to.
Now, and on the father-son thing, what only Private Sales was the only one we co-wrote and co-directed, and after that, it was his project or my project. And so there's just there's a rule that I may say to Taylor, "Do you want to grab a close-up of that?" Or, what if we were to this? And if he says, "I would never use it," and Taylor edits all his own projects and I edit mine, then I know he knows he's not going to use it. And so I feel totally comfortable making the suggestion, but if he doesn't use it, my feelings aren't hurt because he's making his film. And I think for anyone who there's got to be that final say. I think two co-directors would be the toughest thing, because very rarely do I think, and it works. I mean, the Coen brothers, there's people that make it work, but are you 100% perfectly synced in the film you're making? And so we find it's always best we can work through options, but at the end of the day, if he says, nope, I wouldn't use it, or he just may say, great, let's shoot it. But there's one final voice.
Yeah, that's smart. I've co-directed before, and I'm not co-directing anymore because it's because you sort of do need a singular voice, and I think those special ones like the Coens, I bet they've got kind of things that they both lean into. Do you know what I mean? With it on the set. So Sean, you were going to talk about actors. Tell me about actors.
I don't consider it any different than, for instance, working with NBA basketball players, that, they are a certain breed, and to get where they are, they, and they're also passionate about their own performance, and it is their face on screen. I think we've only had problems with a handful of actors who I don't know if they really wanted to be actors or whether they were striving towards the things that being a successful actor may bring. The actors that we work with, and it's 95%, 99%, that just love being on set, love acting, great. It's just that one occasional one that will get in, and it's all about them, and they're not willing to be better for their other actors. They're not thinking big picture. They're just thinking just my stuff. And and our whole casting process is really changed. It very rarely happens to us now because we vet the actors through Zoom calls and all sorts of things, that just to make sure that you actually want to be an actor, and we're going to get dirty, and it's going to be rainy, and it's going to be late nights, or whatever that it may be. We're very clear about what any particular project's going to, what you're going to go through. And when you see the excitement in their face, like, okay, yeah, let's make it, then you got the good one. And if they're like, well, but what about my double vegan reverse diet and and there's nothing wrong with that, but where their focus is when they're more concerned about their diet or what they're going to be eating on the set versus a question about their character. This is more so in the beginning. I was like, I love it when an actor, they get a script and they want to get on a call and just talk about what they just read and have questions about the character. That they're invested.
Yeah. And there's definitely, from experience, because we do the same, we're very careful when we do casting, because you are effectively going to war with these people on your side, so you need everybody on the same page. But on an indie film, especially if it's your first one, there can be a bit of a power dynamic shift, because as soon as you've shot something, you're tied to that person, and suddenly the power changes a little bit, and you can't and maybe if you're not as experienced, you don't feel you're able to deal with conflict with an actor. So it is a tough one. But I do know, we've got actors we use all the time because we know they're fun to be around, because ultimately, if you don't enjoy making it, then what's the point? What's the point in doing it? So you mentioned you've done movies, but you've also done a TV show. So how does that compare to making feature films?
We're almost half and half. I think we've done 6 limited series. So so we're about a third. Yeah. It requires more commitment from everybody because it's going to take longer. But we did almost 5 in a row, and then we took a long break when we've done all these features. and it was one of our sort of guy at Film Hub, one of our distribution outlets, that said they're really looking for series and not as much features. And so we had this show called The Salem Sisters sitting there, and Taylor went back and did a rewrite, and that's what we're working on now. But from a business standpoint, you can see that if they watch one of our films and after 90 minutes they're done, they just may go to another streaming platform. But if we can get them hooked, or not us, but if the streaming platform can, their clients, their customers feel like they've had a better experience because they're spending more time on that platform. And we notice it works with, I mean, it happens with us. We get hooked in a series and we'll spend, several weeks on a platform.
Yeah. And talk to me about the distribution side. What are you doing? Do you go to a sales agent, a distributor? Are you film hubbing? How do you handle releasing your films?
Yeah, our beginning was weird because with private sales, so the plan was do private sales as Taylor's Film School, stick it on YouTube, and this was a 2015 YouTube, so a very different YouTube, and then we'll go on to our first real project. And an Italian distributor reached out after seeing it and said, it was on for 4 days, and then he said, I want to license it for Italy, and we pulled it off. And you remember, Taylor, why we ended up not going with them?
Yeah, he's like, and fair enough, but he said to license it in Italy, we're going to have you guys film some nude scenes and whatnot to, draw the kind of audience that Italian television needs. And at the time I was 18. So, we weren't really going to do that. So, but he was super helpful. And we expressed that to him. He said, I completely understand. He's like, but you guys should know that Amazon is about to open up their platform to independent producers. And so I think we were one of the first shows on sort of right as that happened. And that grandfathered us into a lot. But
over the last 8-9 years, they've purged a lot of people. In fact, I heard they just cut off. No, there's no new people. But so far and the other thing is, about halfway through, they gave us access to all 200 countries. And so there was a good run there where we were like a mini distributor. We knew that we would get worldwide distribution. And then that's slowly been pulled back to project specific. So we'll put it on Amazon and we'll let it go there for 30 days or so. And then Film Hub will take over everything else.
Right. Okay. So you've got like a Prime Amazon Direct where you've got all your projects. And when you say 30 days, do you go straight for purchase, or are you doing Prime?
Yeah, they decide. So it used to be every single one of our films went to Prime, free on Prime. And now it seems like the most recent one, Zombie Repellent, that just came out, UK, I think it's Prime, US, it's Rent By. So I don't know if it's an algorithm that picks or if there's a human, but they decide which countries get what.
Yeah. See, that's the bit I don't like, because I'm going through the process at the moment. I've got the rights back to some of my old movies and got worldwide rights back. And we thought, right, okay, we go on Amazon, we go on Film Hub. And I really don't like this era we're in where you can't speak to anyone and and also you don't get any kind of timeline. You just put something up, don't you? And you kind of have to, I don't know if it's different for you guys, you've been on there a long time, but you just have to sort of wait until things appear and there's no kind of notification. Is that the same experience for you?
Yeah, Amazon's always been that way. We would just have to keep checking every day to see when it went live. But it's even worse. So if you're about to do your first film and you're about to put it on Film Hub, not only do you not know, let's just take Tubi, for example. So what you find out from Tubi is you've made X amount, but there is no correlation to how many people watched it, how many ads ran during that. It is literally, here you go. And so it's a very blind business, unlike if you were selling salsa, where you said, all right, we make it for $1, give it to the wholesaler for $2, and they sell it for $4. Everyone knows per can what everyone's making. It's just not that way. It's a very blind sort of situation. Yeah.
And even I think Amazon, don't they base how much per hour they give you on some of it's based on your ratings as well, isn't it? On reviews and star ratings and stuff.
So the buy rent is is just, it's a 50-50 split. But the streaming, I mean, Taylor, you can speak to what we used to make versus sort of what we make now.
Okay, so it's great, and I tell this to non-film people a lot, like my fiance's parents, and they sort of look at me like I'm a lunatic for doing this business in the first place. But when we first started, like private sales came out, and I remember those days when we were watching the numbers, and they weren't huge numbers, but they were growing. And then the court, we were like, all right, this is gonna be great. We're success overnight. So that's what it felt like. They're making 15 cents per streamed hour, which is bonkers now. And then it slowly started to move to, I think, what is it now, like 0.01 cents per streamed hour or something? Or
No, it's 1.5 cents per streamed hour.
Yeah,
a penny and a half.
And I don't know if they're still doing it, but and for a while it was on a curve. And the curve was basically if they watched 100%, it's like through the credits and everything. So you had to get like 95% watch time of your content for you to be graded on the curve of, yes, you made the full amount, as opposed to, if they watched only 10 minutes, well, they're not going to want to pay you, anything. But we've seen it go through the entire shift from really, really great to like, give us your content to, you can give it to us if you want. and
15 cents a streamed hour, at the time we weren't thinking those were the good old days. But as the last years have gone by and it went down to a penny and a half, now we look back at 15 cents a streamed hour, we're like, those were the days, where we actually could potentially, have a film that would be really successful, because they did have a huge audience and there was only Netflix and Hulu was super early. So streaming was getting exciting and people were signing up and going for it, but there just wasn't the competition, both in content and in the amount of streaming channels.
Yeah. And it felt a bit, I think with Amazon Prime, I think the problem in a way was they just let everybody on there. So there was so much stuff and there was so much crap on there that it sort of made everything look bad, which is probably why they had this big cull and kind of pulled a load of stuff back. But it is nuts. And I've had the same conversation with people. When you say, like, even I think the last time I spoke about it, it was the UK, it was like 8p an hour. And people just can't understand 8 pence an hour. Now it's down to even that. It's just, it just doesn't make sense. So if you're happy to give me an estimate, not looking for exact figures, if you made a film for 10k now, horror film, for example, how much are you hoping to make on that? And how long is it gonna take you to get there?
Well, we'll know within the first 2 years whether it's going to make 30. Except the problem is you can't even predict the same horror film with the wrong one with the right title, one with the wrong title. If we just repackage the exact same content, one might do good, one might not. And so, so it's, and there was a what do you call it? A podcast with the head of Film Hub. And he was talking about the very best films that they've got going and some of the bigger ones. And 80 seemed to be like if the cap, wow, if you hit 80,000, you're just doing fantastic, which is great for us if one of our films hit 80, but not if we made it for 100. And that is your entire distribution plan. Because when we revisited that same distributor back from private sales a couple of years ago, he reached out and said, hey, I see you got a lot of films. And his plan was to take it and put it on Amazon. And he's like, there is no more, like the foreign sales have just disappeared. In Italy now, he can't sell all the individual TV stations and a lot of that has just disappeared because of streaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, the whole thing's sort of got massive and then shrunk again, hasn't it? Okay, that's interesting. So then looking at that, so it completely makes sense. $10,000, and it's a smart move because if on those streaming platforms, one thing I was going to ask you was, so have you ever tried sales agent, distributor, kind of traditional style distribution?
Well, it only would have been, my first film pre-streaming, that's how you had to do it. And what they did was they sold it all around the world, got streaming report or got all the sales reports, and they just kept all the money. And then,
Yeah.
so what we did is we thought we would be clever, and we had it in at HBO. So we went around them and sold it to HBO, and then they informed us that we can't sell our own film. And what their solution was, we could give them the money for HBO. They would sell our own film back to us, and then we could deliver to HBO so that we could be on HBO. So that film made no money for us, made them probably 3 times the budget. And their solution was sue us. And so when streaming came along, although the money has never been great, at least up until sort of now where you can't even see the watch times, it at least seemed it's just us and them, and you have a little bit of control over your own destiny. Now with some of them giving no reports, you make it and you throw it out there, and then instead of us stressing about numbers, we make the next film.
Yeah. No, that sounds like fun to me. I've got to just convince my wife / producer that it's time to move on to the next one. And you know what? The reason she'll say, hold on, slow down a minute, is my next question, which is marketing, which is spending the time promoting that film. How do you fit that in, and what is your strategy for promoting the stuff to make sure people are actually watching it?
Taylor, you can give this very short answer.
Yeah, we suck at promoting. we really do. I mean, I don't know if it's because Sean and I are both slightly. I think there's a level of ADHD involved, but we also operate so fast, and we have so many films and projects that we want to do. Is often as soon as we finish a project, we're often already moving on. Like there's already plans, there's already scripts in place. Sometimes there's already casts in place to move on to the next project. It's also very, very difficult on our scale with the amount of money that we spend to effectively market without some sort of genius marketing strategy that we would have to pull out of our butt, to actually market to the amount of people, like especially when we first started with Amazon, there was just too many people. We couldn't even feasibly market to the amount of people who were naturally finding it on Amazon when the market was less crowded. And now it's almost the opposite problem, where there's too many other things that you almost can't effectively market to people. One is we've had family members who's like, oh, your movie's on Amazon Prime, and then they find out it's $2.99, and like, well, can you send me a link? It's just like, dude, it's
it's less for the coffee, but yeah. And so we had on a show we had called American Bikini. It was a 3.5-hour episode. One of the girls, the lead, was from The Bachelorette, and she had millions of followers socially. And so she started doing her promotion, and it gave us a $14 bump on Amazon. And that's when we realized that, wow, it is even people who like the actor, but they knew her from reality television, and they might not have wanted to see her in scripted stuff. They may have had no interest. It's not. And then this is for all sort of marketers. We've really found that from the post to the view to the click to go watch it, if you're posting 6 months ahead, it's just gone. And so you at least have to have something where they can click and instantly they're there. They're probably not going to watch it at that moment, but maybe it will then continue to be in there if they let it roll for 20 seconds, that maybe it'll keep popping up in their feed and they'll get back to it. And then at a penny and a half an hour, you can't buy ads to then, you're going to pay 10 times on the ads for the return. And that's the tough balance too. I think it is the secret sauce. The person who solves this may have the most successful independent film of all time if they can figure out how to generate a big enough audience to a film that may not naturally draw an audience with a name or something like that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sorry.
Go ahead.
We're sort of in this Wild West time, where nobody really has this, because the days of the Kevin Smiths and who they make the film for X amount and it goes to all the festivals and it's a cult hit. Those days are sort of they're almost gone. It's unbelievably tough to try and replicate that, or set up your strategy on something that worked in the past, because every 5 years, and now it's even less than that, the game just changes, and you are more and more things are popping up where that is bringing people's attention away from the thing that you're trying to create. And I can make a post today, people are going to forget I ever posted it tomorrow. It's
Yeah.
And we're living real time what happened with music, where all right, so it's $9 a month, and you can listen to every song ever recorded, and that's all chopped up in fractions of pennies to each listen. But the music artists can go out and tour, and they still have that alternative way to make money where we haven't figured out, and we're trying to figure it out. What is the alternative part for the movies? Is it merchandise, or that can create a separate stream of income? And again, if anyone has the answer, maybe they can leave it in the comment for us in the comments, because that's the missing sauce for us right now. That alternative stream of revenue.
Yeah, if they put it in the comments, I'll be deleting that comment.
Take it out.
Yeah, that is a tough one, and yeah, marketing is difficult. And I've been with the film that we released late last year. I've been doing lots of experimenting with lots of different things, but like you say, the painful part of it is, for a filmmaker, is you have no way of knowing if the things you're doing are actually having an effect, because you won't find out for 6 months, and the data's not. It's not like, oh, I can see on that Thursday when I did that thing that suddenly everyone viewed it, because you don't get that much information. So it is the Wild West. And yeah, someone needs to come up with it. There's a few filmmakers I've spoken to that have done things like they've done merch, or they've done a game Boy game that did quite well, that made him more money than the film, which is crazy. So there's got to be a solution out there. One other thing I was going to touch on, do you guys bother with festivals? How do you feel about festivals?
When we started 10 years ago, festivals, and I don't want to blanket all festivals, but there were still festivals that people went to, because that's where you got to see the indie films. Now, two things. One, we don't go to festivals because we can't put it on the streaming channels until after the festival run has happened. And often people go to festivals at least they did, so that they can get distribution. And we already have the distribution in place, so it just delays us returning the revenue so we can make another film. But there's so many festivals. It's tough to know, am I spending my money for my own enjoyment to get some laurels, or is there one that there may be someone in that audience who can change the course of my career? And you may know better. You may have spent more time in that world of just, how do you know which is which?
Yeah, I think the answer is, unfortunately, you have to go to them. You have to have been to a festival to know whether it's worth you entering that festival. And like you say, the big ones that will make a difference are expensive and have so many entrants that your chances of getting in are tiny. So with the last film, we've not really done festivals, because we just wanted to get it out there. We wanted to get it released, a bit like you guys. Although you've got enough movies to do your own festival. You've got all that back catalogue. So what you need to do is set your own festival up.
So we'll pull a Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just watch all your own movies. So I just finish up with a question I ask everybody, and I'll start with you, Taylor. Have you got a motto?
I will leave our sort of company motto aside, but I think my personal motto is chase creativity when you find it. It is very difficult to, in today's sort of, with the way that unfortunately, with the way that this business is and stuff, it's often very hard to stay motivated and to stay creative with all the things that you end up having to do and learn as a filmmaker. It is show business. You have to learn the business side of things a lot of the time. And I think for a lot of people that can demotivate them. I think that just chase creativity. It is a very, very valuable thing to when it comes across you and it finds you. Just chase it. Good things happen when you're creative.
Sure.
And
You got
Sean.
one?
Yeah, our company one has always been Greenlight Yourself, and that's the name of the book that we're putting out, which is just there's no one who will be more enthused about your project than you will. But personally, it's just hustle till you don't have to introduce yourself, and that you never achieve that really. But it just is just keep creating, putting stuff out, and it's funny because when we started, the amount of people who would have to know about you was much smaller, and over the last 10 years, everybody has to know about you, and so I guess, and then it's hustle till you don't have to introduce yourself and greenlight yourself, so that if someone's not offering you the opportunity, you create the opportunity for yourself.
Thanks for listening. If you found that episode useful, I suggest you check out Getting a Distributor to Fund Your Micro-Budget Film with filmmaker Joseph Umba. He's done a great job. He's made about 5 feature films, and he's getting to the stage now where a distributor is actually funding those features when he's making them. He also managed to get one of his films on Netflix. So do check that video out.